Today we're going to be showing you how to take on and off your backhoe for a Jinma tractor. This is a 254. Backhoe is an HW03. And in order to do this, you're going to need a few tools. We've got a 32mm wrench. You could use a crescent wrench, doesn't really matter. But we've got this to take off the hydraulic lines. We've got a 13mm socket on an extension and a ratchet just to take off the hydraulic pump. And then a hammer and some sort of a punch will make it easier to get the pins out of the front. And also you're going to need a 24mm wrench, and you could either use another 24mm wrench. I've just got a 24mm socket on a ratchet, and that's just to take off the bolts down there, but we'll get to that. So we'll start. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is put your stabilizers down and get your bucket on the ground. This is going to let you move the backhoe around a little bit in order to get the pins up front nice and free so they're not being pinched, so you can take them out easier. And that's also part of the reason we've got the hammer and the punch, just so we can pop those out of there. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do, is take those pins out. They're right underneath your loader wings, right here. So there's going to be either a cotter pin or something, on the other side of them holding them in there. We've just got these in there right now. And then they should slide out if you've got the backhoe in the right position, or you can just use a hammer and a punch. So we'll take those out. Alrighty, so now that we've got the pins out of the front, the next step is going to be to take these bolts off down here. You've got those little triangles on where your 3-point goes, and then the bolts going through the backhoe frame. So you got to take those bolts out of there. So that'll be the next step. Alright, so for this we're using a 24mm wrench, and you can either use another 24mm wrench. I've just got a socket on a ratchet here. Sure. That's a 27. Yeah. Alrighty, so for this, we're using the 24mm wrench, and you can either use just another 24mm. I've just got a 24mm socket on a ratchet. So we're just going to take these out. And if your backhoe's in the right position, they'll just pop right out if there's no weight on them. And you're going to have to do this to both sides. Alright, now we're just doing the other side. Get these bolts out of here, and then the only thing still hooked up to the backhoe will be the hydraulics. Alrighty, so next thing that you're going to want to do now that we've got all 4 of the bolts out of the triangles down there is take off your hydraulic lines. I find it's easier when you go to put your backhoe back on if you have these hoses disconnected from the pump. Because if you take your pump off before you take these hoses off, sometimes they're too tight. You can't get keep the pump from rotating when you're trying to take these off. So I always take them off before I take the pump off. And these are the 32mm. And when you're doing this, you are going to lose a little bit of fluid, so you might want to have a drain pan down there. And then it doesn't hurt to have some zip ties just to tie up these hydraulic lines so they don't leak too much. And then also, you're going to want to make sure that you don't lose this little O-ring that's in this fitting right here. You don't want that to fall in your drain pan or on the floor, because if you lose that, your backhoe's not going to run right. So we'll take off the other side, and then once we get this one disconnected, you're going to want to take off your hydraulic pump. You're gonna pull the tractor away a little bit so you have a little bit of room to take that off. Go. All right, now that we've got both of the hydraulic lines disconnected from the pump, we're just gonna, you can either just push your tractor a little bit and get the get it to where you have a little bit of room right here to take the pump off. There's not a big shaft or anything on it that's keeping it from going back too far, so it'll come off if you have like about an inch of room there. And one thing you're not going to want to do is you're not going to want to run the tractor when you have these lines taken off, because if you accidentally forget that your PTO is engaged, it'll burn up the pump since there's no fluid running through there. If your PTO is disengaged, then you're not going to hurt it, but I'd rather not run the risk. So now we're going to use our 13mm socket with an extension. Oop, not quite far enough back yet. So I usually just get them loose and then you can take them out with your hands. Alrighty, so we got all the bolts out of there, and you're just going to want to make sure that gasket stays on there, and then you've got your 4-bolt cover that's going to go take place of where the pump was. We just got one in here, and yeah, like I said, just make sure that gasket's on there, and then you're going to have a little bit shorter bolts because the thickness of the pump is a little thicker than your plate. Just slap the bolts in here. So put this on here, and this is just so you don't leak gear oil out the back. Alrighty, so now your backhoe's pretty much disconnected. There's nothing else left to do. You're just gonna, I mean, if you want to put your 3-point back on, you're just gonna have to take these off and store them with your backhoe. And then also, I always just make sure my O-rings are still in here, and then just get these hand tight so that your pump, it's not just, you know, hanging around. Get that other one on there and you're all set. So that's about it for taking off your backhoe. You can just pull the tractor away now and you're good to go.